When the zombie horde launched its assault, Li Guanglong did not retreat. Instead, he led his troops into battle, determined to rely on tanks and artillery to deal with these sinister creatures of extreme mean. In Li Guanglong's eyes, even if these zombies were immune to bullets and blades, they couldn't possibly withstand heavy artillery and tank shells. Blast them with cannons! Even iron would be smashed to bits, let alone rotting corpses. His reasoning sounded solid, but the reality was completely different, because there were just too many zombies. When tens of thousands of them swarmed in from all directions, there was simply no stopping them. Zombies knew no fear, no pain, no hesitation. They charged headlong into gunfire and artillery alike. The defensive fortifications constructed by the army were completely useless against the relentless undead. Bullets were utterly ineffective, as if shooting air. Tanks and cannons could blast zombie bodies apart, but the efficiency was abysmal. With only a few dozen tanks against thousands of zombies, it was like scratching an itch through a boot. Even when a zombie lost a limb, it would still keep charging. Unless it was completely blown to pieces, it simply would not die. And doing that often took 2 or 3 shells per zombie. At first, Li Guanglong's counterattack did have some effect. They managed to kill off a portion of the horde, but once the zombies reached the trenches, he finally understood just how terrifying they truly were. Not only were they fast, strong, and heavily resistant, but their infection rate was horrific. A single bite or scratch, and a soldier would turn into a new zombie within seconds. Once the horde breached the trenches and went into close combat, the true nightmare began. Against enemies impervious to bullets and blades, the soldiers were powerless. A whole clip would barely faze a zombie. It would leap forward and take a bite out of its target, killing instantly. Moments later, the bitten soldier would rise again as a new zombie and attack his comrades. Under such a relentless infection loop, Li Guanglong's so-called elite army was completely ineffective. In fact, they only made things worse by spreading the corpse poison further. Damn it! What the hell are these monsters? Why do they just keep multiplying? From a distance, Li Guanglong cursed under his breath, peering through his binoculars into the chaos unfolding in the trenches. At first, seeing zombies blown apart by tank shells had made him feel triumphant. He thought he was bold and decisive, a brilliant commander, but once the horde closed in, and the battle turned completely one-sided, his pride turned to fear and rage. He never imagined his army would be so weak, crumbling on contact. Or perhaps, it wasn't that his soldiers were weak, the zombies were simply too terrifying. Your Highness! We must retreat now! If this continues, we'll just be throwing away more lives! Shouted General Wan Chong, who had been guarding Li Guanglong closely. From his perspective, the whole army was just being sent to the slaughter. If this kept up, they would all die before the day was over. Where's the artillery? Bring out all of my heavy weapons! Blow those freaks to hell! Li Guanglong roared, making a final desperate attempt to hold the line. Your Highness! All artillery has already been deployed, but there are too many zombies. We can't kill them all. If you don't give the retreat order now, none of us will make it out alive. Wan Chong was panicking. He had already spotted several particularly ferocious zombies charging in from the distance. These monsters could leap over 10 meters in a single bound. They were absurdly fast, and even direct hits from shells barely scratched them. Clearly, these were not ordinary undead. There has to be a way. I refuse to lose to a bunch of mindless monsters. Li Guanglong began pacing frantically, racking his brain for a breakthrough. He had fought in countless battles and always emerged victorious. He had never faced such a dire situation. Your Highness! The lines have broken! We can't hold them any longer! Wan Chong's face was drenched in sweat. In the brief moment of hesitation, dozens more soldiers had already been slaughtered. The once impenetrable front lines were collapsing completely. Even though the troops were fighting bravely and without fear, they were simply no match for the endless zombie horde. Retreat! Get everyone out, now! Finally realizing he'd lost control of the situation, Li Guanglong relented and gave the retreat order. Retreat! Fall back now! Wan Chong bellowed, signaling the retreat horn. The surviving soldiers scattered and fled in all directions. But the results were devastating. The zombies were too fast. The soldiers couldn't outrun them. Within minutes, the retreating troops had all fallen, devoured by Claw and Fang. Wan Chong watched the scene unfold with a heart full of despair. As a general, There was no worse agony than watching his men die horribly, unable to do anything to save them. If only we had retreated sooner, we could have saved a few, even if just one more had survived. You beasts! I'll take you all with me! Blinded by grief and rage, Wan Chong drew his steel blade and charged toward the zombie army. What are you doing? Do you have a death wish? Li Guanglong reacted quickly, grabbing Wan Chong by the arm. Even though Wan Chong was a martial arts master, in the face of tens of thousands of zombies, individual strength meant nothing. He could cut down a dozen or even 100, but once he ran out of strength, he'd end up just like the rest.
And just can't accept it. This can't be the end yet. You promised to never leave.